Hey guys, welcome to Solo ReacTalk. This morning I'm going to be reacting to Native American history on the Extra History YouTube channel. Today's video is Sitting Bull, Origin of a Legend, Native American History Part 1 on the Extra History YouTube channel. If you guys want to check out my previous reaction to other Native American history videos made on the Extra History YouTube channel, remember that the reaction playlist card is going to be at the top right here for those reactions. And if you want to check out the original video as well as Extra History's YouTube channel, the links are going to be in the description below. Okay, let's start. 3, 2, 1, go.
Sitting Bull opens his eyes. Above him is the clear sky and the faces of his people looking down. He is bleeding, exhausted, in excruciating pain. The blood loss has made him pass out. For 2 days, he has performed the annual sun dance, looking for guidance from the Great Spirit.
What are those things that are hooked on his body?
He has been made war chief of the Lakota. White invaders have come seeking gold in the sacred Black Hills in violation of treaties, and Blue Coat cavalry are on their way, sworn to kill any Lakota refusing to live on reservations. In acts of sacrifice and endurance, Sitting Bull has fasted for days while dancing and cut 100 pieces of flesh from his arms. But when he'd lost consciousness, that's when the vision came. Blue coats falling from the sky like grasshoppers, upside down, their hats tumbling from their heads, falling into the Lakota camp. It prophesizes a great victory, a victory that will come within days beside a river called the Little Bighorn.
So in order for Sitting Bull to have inspiration on how to fight against the colonialists, this sun dance had to be performed, where he's experiencing, I don't know how much pain, but it must be a lot. I mean, having those hooks on his body, and through that process he would be able to formulate a plan on how to deal with his enemies. Interesting. I don't know if I'd be able to do that. The pain would eclipse any thought of formulating a plan. You know, I don't like pain. I don't like pain, and that pain there looks very acute, very continuous pain, especially because he's bleeding on his body. Yeah, I don't think I'd be able to accomplish something like that. Yeah, but it's interesting.
If you'd like to see the next episode of this Sitting Bull series immediately after watching this one a full week early, you can do that on Nebula. Learn how after the episode. Sitting Bull. His name stirs up images of the Great Plains, of Custer's last stand, of a grizzled chief in a war bonnet. And that's really no wonder, for Sitting Bull was a titan, a man who achieved legendary status within his own lifetime and became one of the most photographed men of his era. A figure who became internationally known for his victory at Little Bighorn, who rocked America to its core and defined the image of a Native American. He was also a man whose stubborn resistance to subjugation, even to his death, remains a powerful symbol to indigenous movements. A man so great that the government who killed him later put him on their postage stamp. But that future seemed a remote one. Born in what is now South Dakota, or possibly Montana, between 1831 and 1837. His father was a chief of the Hunkpapa Lakota, as were two
South Dakota or Montana, right? 1831. 1837. Okay. Lakota.
of his uncles, meaning he had much to live up to. And he didn't start as Sitting Bull. That was originally his father's name. Instead, he was known as Jumping Badger.
Oh, all right. Jumping Badger. And his father's name is Sitting Bull. Okay.
However, soon, his careful and considered nature, weighing options and thinking before he acted, ensured that everyone called him by the inglorious nickname of Slow. Jumping
Slow. All right. I guess, the fighters in the Lakota clan don't really value those who think in a strategic manner. They are just, head straight into battle, and that will determine the victor. Huh.
Badger wouldn't have to live with that handle for long, though, for he would have ample opportunity to prove himself as a warrior. For the Lakota prided themselves on their warrior culture with its virtues of bravery, fortitude, generosity, and wisdom, and were constantly fighting enemies. Though perhaps not the enemies you immediately imagine, because while later he would become famous for fighting the US cavalry, young Jumping Badger's early years were spent fighting the Lakota's traditional enemies, other Native Americans, particularly the Crow people.
It's such a shame that, many of these clans were fighting amongst each other, and they did not see the danger that was coming beyond the horizon. And once that danger finally arrived at their doorstep, it was too late for them to really formulate a plan that would repel these colonialists from their territory.
In the first 2 decades of Jumping Badger's life, the Lakota were in an odd transitional position. A century before his birth, they had been agriculturalists who hunted and fished to supplement their diet. But then the Cheyenne had given them something that totally changed their life. Horses, brought by European colonists.
Oh, I thought horses were already existing in North America, even before, the settlements of Europeans. Huh, all right.
Now mounted, the Lakota could take up what was known as horse culture, a way of life that involved following the enormous herds of buffalo. And the buffalo gave them most of what they needed, from meat to furs to skin for their tents, cured and made weatherproof by a concoction made from the buffalo's brain. Firearms.
Buffalo's brain, wow. They use every single facet of the buffalo.
Another import from settlers also made hunting buffalo even easier. Though when Jumping Badger killed his first buffalo at the age of 10, he...
Huh? At the age of 10? Do you guys know how big a buffalo is? How did he kill that animal at the age of 10? With what, a gun?
did so with a bow and arrow.
Okay, you know what? All right. I just find it hard to believe a 10-year-old, unless if he was helped with other men who were hunting these buffalo, I will understand. But a 10-year-old, bow and arrow on a buffalo. Those animals are huge.
But he was 14 when he gained the name he would use for the rest of his life. In an attack on a group of Crow warriors, he managed to count coup, to ride up and touch an enemy in combat, then escape unharmed, shaming him. It was one of the bravest acts a Lakota warrior could accomplish. So, when they returned to camp, his father, who had also distinguished himself that day, announced that he would take the new name of Jumping Bull.
Wow, Jumping Bull, Jumping Badger.
To his son, he bestowed an eagle feather and his former name of Buffalo Bull Who Sits Down.
Buffalo Bull Who Sits Down. Okay.
A name that emphasized both pride and a dogged determination.
Oh, Buffalo Bull Who Sits Down. Sitting Bull. Nice.
Not to be moved. A name frequently shortened by outsiders to Sitting Bull. It was a fitting name. Sitting Bull would go on to win fame for his valor in war. Carrying a shield made by his father, he battled warriors from rival groups with a determination equal to his new name. Once, when challenging a Crow chief to single combat, that very shield saved his life, deflecting a bullet into his foot before he killed the rival hand to hand.
Wow. That's impressive type of shield you've got there. What type of metallic alloy does it have that it would deflect a bullet?
Soon, he was a member of both the Kit Fox Warrior Society and the Midnight Strongheart Society.
Okay. Midnight. So what is it, like clubs? He was invited into very important clubs.
Society, two of the most prestigious warrior groups in the Lakota. And
Okay, warrior groups.
such was his fame that Lakota warriors would supposedly charge their enemies while shouting, "I am Sitting Bull!" as an intimidation tactic. Before long, he was named the leader of the Stronghearts.
I mean, imagine he said, I am Bull, a Buffalo Bull who sits down. No, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. So yeah, Sitting Bull works. Yeah.
His reputation as a medicine man also grew, for from childhood, he'd had visions. When Sitting Bull dreamed of rain, the skies would open. His predictions came true. During the annual Sundance, he was also among the warriors who would cut themselves or even thread cords through the muscle of their chests and hang from the central pole.
My gosh.
A feat of endurance to bring favor on his community. And increasingly, he took on more leadership roles. However, it should be noted that that meant something different in Lakota terms. For in the Lakota culture, warriors made decisions for themselves, both in war and peace. Meaning to be a leader was simply to have enough clout that others would follow you out of respect or inspiration. But
So the more trades you have under your belt, the more recognition you have, and the more you'd be respected within the Lakota as being a leader. The more experience, the more skills, the more traits that you have acquired over the years, you will be recognized.
not duty. If a chief decided to declare war, for instance, and a band considered it ill-advised, that group was free to leave and join another village that advocated peace.
Nice. Wow, that is a lot of freedom you have there. In nations, you can't just do that. you can't just tell your president or your prime minister or your king and queen that no, I'm not going to fight for you because I don't like your leadership style. I don't like where you're sending us. I don't like this war you want us to fight. You can't just say that, especially if you are part of the military or you've been conscripted into the military. You'd be sent to jail or you'd be executed for treasonous actions. But in the Lakota, the freedom here to choose whether you want to be led by your chief or by those who are in higher position is ultimately up to you as a Lakota warrior. And that's quite interesting.
Yet unsettled times were approaching for the Lakota. For decades, they'd heard rumors about settler expansion into the southern plains, railways crossing the country, and the terrible slaughter of the buffalo.
The new reality is slowly dawning upon all of you.
But all that too still seemed far away. Similarly, their nomadic lifestyle had somewhat mitigated the impact of epidemic diseases. In fact, though certainly diminished, the Lakota were among the few tribes whose population grew in the 19th century. By the 1850s, however, these problems were on their doorstep. Increasingly, settlers came from the east, and the U.S. government approached the Lakota and other Plains tribes, pushing them to sign treaties that defined territory. Some of these, like the 1851 Fort Laramie Treaty, designated areas like the Sacred Black Hills to be reserved for the Lakota, but others heavily restricted tribes to pieces of reservation land, often called agencies.
This was a big mistake. Signing documents to things that you don't 100% understand. Signing documents with people who will not adhere to them. They will find ways to circumvent the documents that they've signed with you and betray you, lie to you, steal from you, kill you. And they'll bring justifications for doing it too. It is unfortunate that the clans of these Native Americans did not see this encroaching danger from beyond the horizon. Is such a shame. Would they have been able to prevent or change the course of history? I don't know. I honestly just don't know. All I'm saying is that there was a massive missed opportunity here for many of these clans to put down their weapons and to unite like the Haudenosaunee. Like the Haudenosaunee, they should have seen something, in uniting all of their people together to fight against the common foe. Maybe things would have been different.
Paramount among the government's concerns was that the tribe also give up their nomadic way of life following the buffalo, whose
If they do that, it is the death of their culture and their society.
herds were already starting to thin. Easily killed en masse with rifles, the settlers mostly only used the tender meat of the buffalo's tongue and left the rest to rot.
What a waste. Just the tongue? Wow. I mean, yeah, we still have hunting in our day and age world, in the present day. We still have hunting, right? But in particular, in my country, in South Africa, those who hunt, like in these private game reserves, the meat is still being used after the kill. The meat is being cut up and being served at the private lodges or within the local communities, making sure that nothing goes to waste. But these people, they just shot them for fun. Maybe took a tongue, and that's it. Ugh, such ecological damage because they want fun. Destruction of the ecology of the environment just to have fun.
Often they shot the animal for no other reason other than the pleasure of it, and sometimes even from moving trains. In fact, buffalo bones littered some planes so heavily, train passengers often mistook it for snow. These
animals are going to go extinct. In fact, I don't know. No, I don't think they are extinct in the United States of America. I think they still have them in, the Yellowstone Reserve, right? That's what it's called, right? I think they still have buffaloes there. I don't know where else do they have buffaloes. But yeah, this is it's really unfortunate that the short-sightedness of these colonialists, killing so many of these buffalo for fun and for a delicacy, just the tongue. It's not only going to destroy the livelihoods of the Lakota and all the other Native American clans, but it's also going to destroy the environment, because the buffalo are a very important part to the life within that region.
treaties promised the Lakota, Cheyenne, Crow, and other tribes that if they settled on the agencies, the government would give them food and medicine in return. And with the increasing depletion of the buffalo, a certain faction of the Lakota argued that this might be the best deal they could get, while others argued they could stay on the agency in winter when nomadic life was hardest, then slip out and follow the buffalo in the summer. Accommodation and
How long is that going to last?
trade would get them more than active resistance, they argued. But Sitting Bull did not trust these promises, nor any accommodation. He chose resistance. And resist he must, for the Bluecoats were coming. The Badlands, Dakota Territory, August 9th, 1864. Ambush and retreat. Ambush and retreat. Sitting Bull had not asked for this, what his enemies called the Dakota War. In truth, it had been another band of Lakota who had ambushed and killed the white settlers. Yet when 4,000 Bluecoats had flooded in to exert retribution, they'd attacked his village of followers at Killdeer instead.
They don't care. All Native Americans are the same to them. They don't care.
Sitting Bull led 4 different tribes of Lakota, none of which had fought the soldiers before. They charged the Bluecoat line on horseback, taking terrible casualties from artillery, but slowing the army's advance so the village could evacuate. Now, the Bluecoat commander was chasing them into the rugged Badlands, just as Sitting Bull wanted. As the enemy marches through the broken ground, the Lakota harass them, springing ambushes with their bows and muskets. Few Bluecoat soldiers die, but by the time they finally make Fort Union, they are exhausted and drained of supplies. Declaring victory, they board riverboats and abandoned the expedition. The Dakota War was over, but sadly, it was a mere prelude. For within a year, the Bluecoats would return, and Sitting Bull would be embroiled in a new conflict, when an alliance of disgruntled tribes, tired of broken treaties and federal harassment, staged the uprising known as Red Cloud's War. And you, my history-loving friend, can continue this story right now, because our second episode, entitled Sitting Bull, No Reservations, is live right now a whole week early and ad-free over on Nebula, where we talk all about Sitting Bull's refusal to sign lopsided US treaties, the Dakota War beginning, and how the Old Man Chief performed an insanely brave act on the battlefield, which would inspire many warriors to follow him to the Battle of the Little Bighorn. But that's not all. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but Nebula's kind of blowing up these days, because more and more people are realizing just how many awesome shows we have on our creator-owned streaming service. That's because we have over 190 of your favorite creators, and there's just always something to see. For instance, if you want to keep learning about Native American history, you could check out Knowing Better's bonus deep dive into the life of Geronimo, or Step Back's hour-long expose on the reclamation of native lands, completely ad-free. Because unlike some other streaming services, Nebula understands that you are paying for, a service, meaning there are never any ads on any videos. Plus, you get to see a ton of Nebula First series, like Extra History, a full week earlier than you can find them on YouTube, and you get access to an ever-growing list of exclusive Nebula originals you can't find anywhere else. Like Real Life Lore's Modern Conflicts episode on the Yugoslav War, the historical showdown show Archaeology Quest, where a scientist and journalist go head-to-head using Paleolithic survival skills, and Lindsay Ellis's Ballad of John and Yoko, which honestly is the most interesting thing I've watched this month. You have to check it out. But if you don't have access to Nebula yet, not to worry. You can sign up right now using our link in the description, or go to nebula.tv/extrahistory, and you can get Nebula for only $2.50 a month when you sign up for an annual plan. Or if you want to lock in Nebula for life and never have to pay again, we are currently offering lifetime memberships for $300. So what are you waiting for? You can sign up for Nebula right here, or check out more Extra History on the YouTube machine here. That one probably has ads though. The biggest bean thanks to Ahmed Ziad Turk, Angelo Valenciana, Arcalite Games, Dominic Valenciana, Izzy Coin, Joseph Blame, Kuya Koi, and Michael Hoggett for being our legendary patrons.
Alright guys, that is it with Sitting Bull, Origin of a Legend, Native American History Part 1 on the Extra History YouTube channel. Yes, the beginnings of, what's his name again? Jumping Badger. Yeah, it was very interesting. The fact that he killed a buffalo at age 10 with bow and arrow, and how he acquired the nickname Slow, being a very strategic mindset type of man, instead of just going guns ho, guns blazing, like other Lakota warriors. He would first think, be cautious, and prepare himself with formulating plans before proceeding with an attack or a defense. So yes, he is a very unique Lakota warrior, belonging to the clan. And this Sundance that he performed as well, really, I like I've stated before, I don't think I'll be able to tolerate the pain and think about creating a plan in that experience. I just don't know how he did it, but he did. And he was also an accomplished medicine man, a man who connected with the ancestors and the spirits, and he gained respect and trust from his people, and he was elevated into leadership because of his experiences, because of his skills, because of his traits, and yeah, really, he was an accomplished man belonging to an accomplished family, because it's not just the father who was a chief, it was his uncles as well that were part of the chieftaincy. So he had a lot of institutional knowledge from all of them, and it built up into his own reputation as well. And now this situation with the different treaties that the Lakota and other Native American clans were signing, with the American government. Really, like I've stated before, it's unfortunate that many of these clans did not see the danger beyond the horizon before it was too late. They were living a very nomadic life, far away from what was happening in terms of the development of this colonial empire as it slowly but surely encroached on their, or should I say, yeah, encroached, sorry, yes, the word I'm looking for is encroached on their territory year after year. And, it is unfortunate that they did not prepare themselves for when that day would come, when train tracks started, going through their territory, when new towns and settlements start popping up out of nowhere, and their sacred lands are to be stripped and mined for resources, and their people being pushed back into agencies or reserves, and their buffalo, sacred animals that, yes, they kill for food, but also for other resources that come from the buffalo, are now to be killed for sport and to be killed just for a tongue delicacy. And so many of these buffalo are to, meet the same fate, death, littered on the ground, just rotten meat and skeletons, just making the landscape looking like it's an apocalyptic death realm. So yes, it is unfortunate that they could not see the danger that was coming towards them, and their culture and their way of life is going to be radically changed as soon as this government further entrenches their authority, stamps their authority on their communities. So yeah, let's see how Sitting Bull tries to fight off against this encroaching danger. And yeah, guys, that is it with my reaction. Remember, if you want to check out the original video as well as X-Ray History's YouTube channel, the links are going to be in the description below. And also thanks again to AnthraxScribe2222 for the request, and hopefully I'll see you guys next week, Tuesday. Fingers crossed. Okay, bye bye.